Hi everyone, welcome back to our Meet the Founder series, 10 Questions With. Today I'm with Kate from Headset. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
I guess the best place to start is right at the beginning. Where did the idea for Headset come from and where did your kind of startup journey begin?
It's quite a story because Headset evolved from a very personal story. It all began in 2011 when my cameraman, who is now also my husband, Olivier, and I were covering the civil war in Libya. And he was really very seriously injured. He was hit by a rocket propelled grenade. I sometimes forget to say that he survived, but he did, thanks to the medics in the rebel forces. But had it been left up to me to save his life, he might not have made it. And that's because in that moment, I completely froze and I didn't have a clue what to do. In theory, I should have known what to do. I'd been trained, but theory and practice are two very different things. And when I needed it, my training totally failed me. I should say it failed me in more ways than one, because not only was I not able to recall any of my first aid skills, but also none of the training I'd received had prepared me for the psychological impact of being faced with such a traumatic event. And so that's really how Headset started. My co-founder, Aela, is also a journalist. And our early research confirmed our assumption that the current training is in desperate need of innovation. So at the moment, the gold standard training that journalists receive is basically a 3 to 5 day residential course that combines theory with high stress simulation training. And the industry standard is that journalists are sent on this training to refresh their skills every 3 years. But in reality, we found this is often not the case, and that many journalists are heading out on dangerous assignments with little or no training. We wanted to change that. And so we're now developing VR safety, emotion, and resilience training, VR Smart, we call it. And our virtual reality training experiences bring simulation training to journalists wherever they are and whenever they need it. Our training is more engaging, more accessible, and ultimately more effective in improving the safety and well-being of journalists.
That's amazing. Can you tell me a little bit more about what it is that you're hoping to change?
So in the short term, we're targeting the media because it's the world that we know and can have the quickest impact in. But ultimately, we think our VR Smart experiences have the potential to change the way hostile environment training, as it's known, is delivered in many sectors. You know, it used to be a time when the term hostile environment referred to a conflict zone, but now we're seeing risks evolving. And so, you know, from street protests to domestic terrorism to climate crises and a relentless stream of online threats, we're seeing in many sectors there are more staff than ever, who are in need of high quality hostile environment training. And we think that in VR Smart, we've got the solution.
I think, yeah, touching on all those different areas that Headset can really have an impact. Is there any kind of target user or anyone that you're hoping Headset will help or you designed the venture for?
So as I said, we were really started with journalists in mind, and we hope that we can help news organizations and journalists improve their safety and well-being. But like I said, we see potential well beyond the media market. The traditional sectors that send their staff on this kind of hostile environment training are organizations like the media, humanitarian aid agencies, but also industries like corporations who are sending staff on high-risk assignments. So we see potential to help many people, but frankly, we are creating a new market. So if we think beyond the traditional hostile environment training market, we see a huge potential for users beyond our initial targets.
Is there anyone else out there doing something similar? And if so, like, what makes you different from anything else that is existing out there in this space?
nobody's doing what we're doing. We're providing training that's not only different, but frankly also better than anything else out there. Our VR smart modules are more engaging, more effective, more accessible, and more cost effective than in-person simulation training. Some companies have been offering online solutions, particularly during the pandemic when in-person training just wasn't happening. Okay, these solutions are low cost and easier to access, but they lack any sort of user engagement or efficacy. And so we have a solution that, like I say, is better than anything else on the market. And there's a big need for this. Organizations who operate in high-risk environments need to de-risk their staff. It's a vital part of their duty of care and is actually often mandated by their insurance companies. But many staff are never sent on training at all. So we're not only offering a more cost-effective solution, but we're also enabling them to train more staff. So I firmly believe that what we're offering is a total game changer.
I'm just thinking of all the kind of paper training I've had for a really practical task, and you never really learn until you're doing the thing. So I can definitely see the practical applications. Are there any success stories that you can share about the impact that you've had to date?
I mean, we've got so many success stories, and really fundamentally, we are an impact-led business. So hearing how much the users love our VR experiences is really what keeps us going. We're getting universally great feedback. Our civil unrest VR smart module has been used by 80 people since it was launched in beta last year. That's across international media organizations, media and journalist advocacy groups, universities, and humanitarian organizations. And 100% of people we surveyed said they thought that our VR felt very real, and they saw it as a really integral part of the training experience. We also found that 100% of people that we asked said that they felt better prepared to help and support colleagues who were struggling with stress and trauma. And this is really validating for us, because this is an area where we really want to have an impact. As I said, when my husband was injured, I had no idea of the impact that that was going to have on me psychologically. And I have to say that was an impact that lasted for years. And for both my co-founder and I, having worked in the media for a long time, we have seen so many of our colleagues dealing with stress, trauma, and burnout over the years. So we're really keen to make an impact in that. And so, as I said, incredibly validating when so many people who are all of the people that we asked said that they found that our training had helped them prepare for dealing with and supporting colleagues who were struggling with stress and trauma.
It's just amazing. There's so many different ways that this is impacting people, whether it's at their job or after. Like, it's brilliant, and it's so great to hear more about Headset. I'd love to know more about you as a founder, though. And you said that the first kind of initial idea was in 2011. What's one thing that you wish you had known at the beginning of this kind of startup journey?
I often say that I wish someone had told me that running a startup was as stressful as being shot at. I spent all these years doing these really dangerous assignments, and it was highly stressful. But I have to say, so is running a startup. It's incredibly difficult, as anybody who is running a startup will know. But seriously, I don't think there's one thing that I wish I'd known. And perhaps if somebody had told me how difficult it was going to be, I wouldn't have done it. And I'm really glad I'm doing it. So sometimes it's better not to know, isn't it? And learn these things along the way.
Ignorance can sometimes be a little bit of bliss. Well, you mentioned your co-founder, Kate and Aela. What three qualities do you think make for a successful founder?
Firstly, I have to say that it is such a blessing to have a co-founder. Ella and I often say that we don't know how people do it on their own. I would say, especially at the stage we're at, where we're growing and we have more and more staff working for us, to have someone at the top with you, helping you, manage the situation, someone to bounce all your stresses off is really invaluable. Ella and I speak at the beginning of every day and at the end of every day, and that's definitely something that I value immensely. In terms of what 3 qualities make a successful founder, I was thinking about this a lot. I would say 1 is resilience. It's really tough, and the odds of success are stacked against us. So having resilience in bucket loads is super important. I'd say another skill or quality is determination, because without it, it would be really easy to give up. Having a company that is value-led and being determined to make an impact is a real driving force for us at Headset. And I know for other impact-led startups, that's the same. So determination and grit is certainly something that I think is a great quality for a founder. And then the last one, I would just say having a get stuff done mindset. Because otherwise, again, it would be so easy to give up or to prevaricate or to, make things unnecessarily complicated. I think if you have a high bias to action, then you can yield the quickest results. I have to say, these are all qualities that, having thought about them through the lens of what makes a successful founder, I also thought, well, these are also good qualities of a journalist. So I think Ella and I both being journalists has set us on a good path for being hopefully successful founders.
I mean, we wish you all the success, and you've achieved so much so far, and it seems that it's a really great partnership. So that's great to hear. From everything you've said, it really sounds that Headset is like using technology in this really impactful way. Are there any other tech for good companies that you'd really admire?
I mean, we admire anyone who's doing, tech for good. Frankly, because there are so many companies out there that are doing tech for bad. So anybody that is using technology to make a positive impact is somebody that I admire greatly. And I have to say, many of those fall within the BGV cohort. We were in the spring 2020 cohort, and there were some great companies there. Breathe Happy is one that we've always been a big fan of. But really, yeah, anyone in the BGV cohort, and frankly, the tech for good landscape is somebody that I admire.
Amazing. And if someone wanted to find out more about VR specifically and how it kind of works with tech for good, is there anywhere you could signpost them?
Come to us. I think I'd be very happy to talk to anyone who wants to understand better about how VR can be used in this space, especially if they've got VR related questions. But if they're more generally looking at tech for good, then I would signpost them towards BGV. We value our time as BGV portfolio members greatly. We thoroughly enjoyed being part of the accelerator. It was a challenging time for everybody. Spring 2020, just as the whole world went into lockdown, but we learned so much, and BGV have been instrumental in our journey. So yeah, I would signpost them towards BGV for general, tech for good, and I would be more than happy to speak to anyone who has specific questions about VR.
I mean, that is a very generous answer, both to BGV and for your time. So thank you. And I guess to finish, what's next for Headset? What's next for you, and how can people help?
So we are just at the start of the next chapter. We are fundraising at the moment. We're raising 2.5 million in a seed round. And so we are really looking ahead to the next 18 months to 2 years, and the milestones we're going to be hitting. It's a super exciting time. We're sort of moving from the startup world to the scale-up world. Yeah, it's exciting. In terms of help, as I said, we're raising. So if anybody knows investors or angels that would be interested in hearing more about our investment strategy, then please do put us in touch. We're also, when we close our round, we'll be looking to hire. So if BGV can help us share that, and then anybody else in the BGV network can help us promote those roles, we'd be very grateful. And then also I would say, if anybody has any ideas of people that could benefit from our training or want to hear more about our VR smart solutions, then we'd love to talk to them.
I mean, you can always count on BGV for support in any way we can help. Thank you so much, Kate. This has been so amazing to hear about Headset and you and Ella as founders. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And thanks, BGV.